Another day, another bloodbath in the King of the Universe tournament, where the battles are great and the reward is even greater, actually. We've got Revanchismo playing as Babylon and Varangian Squirrel as Troy. The matchup is pretty interesting. Babylon, probably the strongest multiplayer faction in the game. Definitely in the top. Troy is very flexible, however, and they can deal with them, but you'd need, like, extremely perfect army comp for that. So this map, the Shadowlands, besides sharing the name with a mediocre WoW expansion, is actually interesting. It's got a lot of mud here, so heavy infantry is gonna have a terrible time fighting. There's a ridge blocking any cohesion, and there's a forest, which means deadly ambushes, and you do want to control it. Now, the Babylonian army, it's gonna have an overwhelming amount of manpower with the slaves, and it's already getting shot at by the elite Trojan princes. Now, the Trojan archers are insanely strong, but they're also insanely expensive, and they're not really as cost-efficient as you might believe. They're just gonna melt these Silulu here and the Seafaring Raiders. The Sea People units will melt these Levy Canaanites, unfortunately. And we see something very interesting here. The heavy infantry is marching in the mud, which is a huge no-no, without any proper support except a couple of javelins. This might not be good for Troy. Babylon is lining up. Here, we only have levies protecting elite archers, the main killing force. I don't know about you, but I'm kinda low-key having a bad feeling about this so far. The Sea People are getting ready to charge in, doing what they do best, taking lives and money and land and, you know, things that go alongside that. The Trojan infantry here, in this case the Canaanites, they just have no chance to stand up. Pretty decent stats combined with fear, it's just gonna make the Sea People obliterate them pretty quickly after the charge. Now the archers, they're firing essentially into units in the forest, which is a really bad idea. Here, the heavy Trojan spearmen are in phalanx mode and they're about to get charged by the axemen. They can survive a lot, but look at this. Essentially, the axemen are doing a lot of damage on the charge, right? But because the archers are firing into the back, they're doing more damage to their own units than to the Trojans. But look at this. Troy doesn't actually have any range support proper here. The javelins, for some reason, are on the other side. The Babylonian and Sea People archers are just having a free game over here. They're turning the mud pit into the killing field. They're just destroying all the heavy infantry without any counterplay. Meanwhile, on this side of the map, the Trojan archers are destroying the Silulu. Now, this is not a cost-efficient use of ammo. Don't get me wrong, it's good that you kill him, but this is probably one of the least priority units in the game right now to take out. Let's take a look at the map. So the javelins, for some reason, just keep kiting away. Obviously, they have no opening to flank. They would have to go all the way around. Is it just turning into a slog that Troy is gradually losing? Look at the elite Sea People archers and the Siraku, they're just having a free time to do anything they want. The Sea People infantry combined with the slaves is just breaking through the cheap Canaanites, and so far, the Trojan nobles don't really have the best targets. It's kinda looking rough for Troy, but you know what? We've seen turnarounds, we've seen swings. Luckily we don't see slings this game, and we're looking at the amazing seafaring heavy archers here. The Sea People elites are just so good. Meanwhile, the mosh pit in the middle, let's take a look at it for cinematic purposes. Slave versus heavily armored soldier, who would win? I'm gonna tell you something, the Babylonian infantry units are way too cost effective, way too overpowered. You do not understand how broken they are in multiplayer unless you've actually played with them or against them. The Canaanite swordsmen, quite decent swords, but I think they're getting used against the wrong targets here right now, at least. Overall, the center is just slowly getting grinded by the Babylonians. Now, the princes actually have a nice opening, nobles, same thing. But they're about to get charged by the seafaring raiders. Now, this one unit of swordsmen is essentially removing 2 to 3 units purely because of micro now. They just have to spook the archers away. They're gonna get a charge into the Canaanites here. The Syrians are gonna get slaughtered, but that's gonna let the nobles actually firing into the rear of this unit. They're still keeping them occupied. These elite deadly archers are just trading into units they shouldn't be trading into. The Trojan infantry here is completely collapsed. There's no support, in the middle is just a giant mosh pit. We do love mud, don't we? The shielded spear warriors just have no killing power, even into cheap slaves. The axemen devastated them, and fighting in mud is really hurting their combat performance, and we just saw a guy lose a head. It's not looking good for Troy. But let's enjoy some cinematic carnage, aka just people jumping with their knees. God, the animations or something bad. You're looking at the battle map. It's not looking good for Troy. The archers are just being chased by armored slave spears. The infantry is about to connect, and the Babylonian and elite Sea People archers just took the high ground. That's gonna allow them to rain death even harder on the heavy infantry in the mud. This is pretty safe to say it's a game for Babylon. Now let's take a look at some crucial moments of the battle, what led to this outcome. Marching the heavy infantry into mud was a really bad idea because that destroyed their combat ability, and also they didn't have the best range support. Protecting your elite archers with throwaway infantry is not the best play in this case. The Babylonian archers just had free reign throughout the whole game. They could target whoever they wanted without any enemy counterfire to stop them. The one unit of Sea People infantry breaking through and scattering 3 archers, even temporarily, removed the main win condition from Troy. Without effective enough range support, the Trojan infantry was just ground into the dust. Promised you a bloodbath, and what do we get? Well, a mudbath in the middle. One interesting thing, we don't see any mounted units on either side, no chariots or cavalry. The map is kinda bad for chariots, but they're totally usable. You just have to hide them behind a ridge and ambush instead of charging through the mud. That'd be pretty dumb, but yeah. Cavalry is pretty good. It was kind of risky, I would say, just going for full infantry spam from both sides. I would have preferred some mounted units myself, but hey, it is what it is. We still saw some bloody action. On the Babylonian side, the slaves did their job of being a distraction, which did give their money back. The Siraku didn't do that much, but the Siraku archers obliterated the enemy. And the Sea People also did great, except that one unit, this one excelled, however. On the Trojan side, unfortunately, the heavy infantry did absolutely nothing. Putting them in mud without a proper support was just not the play that destroyed their combat stats. The Trojan nobles, they could have been used more effectively against the right targets and on the right side of the map. They're very expensive, but they really need the correct targets to get their value back. The levies, let's not talk about the levies, and the other Canaanite units did not do as good. But there's another battle in the series, and there's a lot more from the tournament to show. We had some tech issues, but that's been fixed, and you can expect everything back on schedule now. This was a great battle, good game to both players. There's a lot more coming, so stay tuned. And until the next time...